My name is Sara Williams, and I was born September 6, 1974, in Phoenix, Arizona. To tell my story is to tell a story filled with many contrasting realities. Urban life versus reservation life, boarding schools versus public schools, traditional practices versus modern technologies. These contrasts have been present all my life, and the constants remain the same. I am registered Tohono, but my mom is also Navajo and Hickory Apache, and she grew up attending BIA and boarding schools. My dad is absentee Shawnee and Duckwater Shoshone, and grew up attending public schools. I have 2 brothers who I love, 5 stepbrothers and sisters, and truthfully, some of those contrasts have been difficult to trudge through, and some have been equally rewarding. To begin the story, I wish I could have talked to my family, but sadly they have all passed on. So I thought who and what impacted me the most education-wise, and I immediately thought about my first Native teacher. To be honest, I never knew why all the Indian kids would be rounded up and sent to class with Miss David. I knew her class had looms, beads, books on natives, but I knew nothing else beyond that. So I managed to make contact with Miss David, and we had an opportunity to chat extensively about the Indian education program at Longview Elementary in the 80s. It's probably been 36 years since I was in her program. With our initial chat, I had some clarity, some sadness, and certainly some inspiration. Miss David was a product of assimilation herself, yet she went on to school to become a teacher, and we talked about how strange it must have been to then be a part of this new direction to offer academic support to Native children in the 80s. Certainly a story all on its own. So she was first a teacher on the Navajo Nation, where almost all students spoke their language. Then she came to Longview, where only 2% of us Native students spoke our language, and where this program was seen as more of a special needs type program. That was a little hard to take in, special needs. But then here we were, young Native kids, unable to speak our language and categorized as lower level academically. I am reminded how my mom and stepfather spoke O'odham growing up, but chose not to teach us. And maybe she is correct that parents who experienced Indian boarding schools didn't want to hinder their children by teaching them their language. It was heavy to take in, but I was thankful for the clarity. It would take many years after that to have another Native teacher in my life. I did, however, have a very woke world history teacher, Mr. Lowe's, in my sophomore year in high school. He taught a 2-week lesson on American Indian history, like real American Indian history, that I would say steered me on a completely different path in life. One where I told him all those years ago I would eventually end up amongst my people in the Tohono Nation. His influence had me listening to Woody Guthrie and the Grateful Dead, reading books like Custer Died for Your Sins and Water Lily, hiking every chance I could, and following my heart when it came to big decisions. When it comes to my family, they are the reason for my awesomeness. As a ranch family, hard work was paramount regardless of gender. As much as I loved my Jordan 1s and Doc Martens, I equally loved wearing boots. Punk and hip-hop were my music of choice, but come Friday through Sunday, it was country music and chicken scratch. My grandpa and uncles would have me outside chopping wood and tending to the cattle, while grandma had me indoors making chimeth and red chili. I would say everyone knew I was gay growing up, but I was only tormented for it by my mom. She gave me perms and made me wear barrettes and frilly girl clothes until the summer my grandma let Nick, the barber, give me my first buzz cut and let me be one of the boys. My mom eventually gave up, but she also asked me not to come home when I officially came out to her. Don't worry, it took many years, but I eventually came home, and she eventually became my best friend until she passed on. You know, this was a big turning point for me. I was lost for a year. Then one day I ended up on the road to Depawa, and when I saw Bobby Peak for the first time, I instantly felt home. Since 2005, I have ran for political office. I've been an alternate on legislative council for my district, Chukukug. I've sat on committees to address truancy and behavioral health. I've worked with first-time offenders, been a school board member and advocate for Indian education. And now I'm a teacher candidate in the Indigenous Teacher Education Project, and once again, I feel home. In thinking about my path in life thus far, everything has led to this moment. Even as a 46-year-old, going back to school to become a teacher, sometimes I think about that and it blows my mind, because never have I felt more on the right path than now. I feel like this semester, my first semester in the ITEP program, every reading was essential. Every discussion was essential. There was a moment at the beginning that I was questioning if this was the right decision for me or not. But now I know that it is. I feel completely changed by this semester. I feel like everything makes sense now. Sometimes it's heavy. Sometimes it feels like we're carrying a lot. But ultimately, when we think about when we graduate and we become teachers, and we think about the kids that we'll be teaching, all of this makes sense. All of this is the reason why we will eventually make impacts in their lives, just like every teacher has made an impact in my life. It's exciting to think about the possibilities for the future. And so, for once, like I said, I feel like I'm home. I feel like this is the path that I need to be on. And for that, I'm starting to feel whole and complete.